The U.S. city of Cincinnati is named after Lucius Quinctius Cincinnatus, an ancient Roman who served as an outstanding soldier, consul, and dictator. Besides a modern city being named after him, the statues of Lucius Quinctius Cincinnatus stand in several other cities, including Paris, France, and Vienna, Austria. There is even an over 2 centuries old fraternal society named after him. This fraternal society has George Washington, the first president of the US, listed amongst its members. In today's video, we look at how Caeso, the son of Lucius Quinctius Cincinnatus, ended up becoming the first Roman to be bailed, and it was mostly on trumped-up charges, and also how this event ruined Lucius Quinctius Cincinnatus, leaving him a pauper who had to live in a decrepit hut outside the city across the Tiber River. I welcome you to my YouTube channel where I explore ancient texts, and ancient texts here I mean texts that have been around for thousands of years. At the moment I'm going through From the Founding of the City by Titus Livius or Livy. This collection of books covers the history of Rome from the founding of the city by Romulus around the year 730 BCE to the time when Augustus was the emperor, which was close to 0 AD. If you've not subscribed, subscribe so that you do not miss any of the videos I publish. Based on the reports that Volscians and Aquae were preparing for war against Anisi, Rome started to enroll soldiers and prepare to defend its ally. As I explained in the previous video, this did not go down well with the tribunes of the people. Livy tells us that the tribunes of the people saw the declared war as nothing more than a story or comedy the patricians made up to stop or deceive the people from adopting the Terentilian law, which would have checked the powers of the consuls. And the tribunes of the people decided they were going to physically stop the enlisting process at the forum. And in its place, they were going to convene a public assembly at the same venue to pass the Terentilian law. Of course, this was inviting a major conflict with the patricians, and this was going to be the first direct physical confrontation since the day when the tribunes of the people were pushing for the passage of the Publilian law. In that competition, the people won. The patricians were determined not to have what happened during the debate on the Publilian law repeat itself. When the tribunes and a crowd of people arrived at the forum, the consuls were already underway with the enlisting process. Some in the crowd moved forward to stop it. The consuls ordered those who tried to interfere with what they were doing arrested. But each time an arrest was made, the tribunes of the people used their power to demand their release, which was promptly done. This became a repeated cycle throughout the day, and nothing else was done. The consul did not recruit, and the tribunes did not manage to call for a vote on the proposed law. Indeed, this stalemate continued for several days. Livy writes, "The older members of the order were generally absent from the proceedings, which were certain not to be controlled by reason, but were given over to recklessness and license. The consuls too, for the most part, kept away, lest in the general disorder the dignity of their office might be exposed to insult." The patricians seem to have been well organized this time round, at least to avoid the tribunes of the people putting the Terentilian law through a vote at the assembly, and their plan involved using violence to drive the people from the forum. The leader of the gang tasked with keeping the plebeians from the forum was Caeso, the son of Lucius Quinctius Cincinnatus. Livy describes him as a young man of great bodily strength, stature with brilliant military qualities, and eloquence as a public speaker. Livy writes, "No one in the state was held to surpass him either in speech or action. When he took his stand in the middle of a group of patricians, conspicuous amongst them all, carrying as it were in his voice a personal strength all dictatorships and consulships combined, he was the one to withstand the attacks of the tribunes and the storms of popular indignation." Under Caeso's leadership, the gang of young men from the patrician families in the city were largely successful at keeping the tribunes of the people and the public away from the forum. Livy states that they were chased away, and anybody who dared to face them was stripped and beaten. Livy says that soon it was apparent to the tribunes of the people that if they were to succeed, something needed to change in their strategy. Livy writes, "It became quite clear that if this sort of thing were allowed to go on, the law will be defeated." When the other tribunes were now almost in despair, Aulus Verginius, one of the college, impeached Caeso on a capital charge. This didn't scare nor slow down the activities of Caeso. It seems he was confident the charges were not going to stick. One, because he was beloved by many, especially because of his exploits as a soldier. And two, because his father was a respected patrician who had also served the city well as a soldier. If anything, Livy says that these charges inflamed him more than they intimidated him. He continued to harass the plebeians more fiercely than ever in his mission to stop them from passing the law in the assembly. But the tribunes of the people were themselves playing a game on him. They were giving him a rope with which to hang himself. Livy writes, his accuser allowed him to push to his ruin and fan the flame of popular hatred and so supply fresh material for the charges to be brought against him. Meantime, he continued to press the law, not so much in the hope of carrying it as in order to provoke Caeso to greater recklessness. While Caeso continued to harass people and stop them from voting at the assembly, the tribunes ran propaganda campaigns against him amongst the people to tarnish his reputation. Livy quotes Aulus Verginius telling the people the following, are you now aware, Quirites, that you cannot have the law which you desire and Caeso a citizen together? Yet why do I talk of the law? He is a foe to liberty. He surpasses all the Tarquins in tyranny. Wait till you see the man who now in private station acts the king in audacity and violence. Wait till you see him made consul or dictator. Aulus Verginius was basically scaring the people that Caeso was likely to rise up to the office of consul or dictator. And if he could act the way he did while a private citizen, he was likely to be a tyrant if he ever got into a high office. By the time the day of his trial arrived, the plebeians strongly believed, thanks to the propaganda by the tribunes, that their liberty solely depended upon the condemnation of Caeso. As expected, many among the patricians came to Caeso's defense. In particular, offered testimony portraying him as a valuable member of society. Livy tells us that among those who offered testimony in defense of Caeso was Titus Quinctius Capitolinus, who had been consul 3 times and belonged to the same family as Caeso. Livy writes, Titus Quintius Capitolinus told the assembly that neither in the Quintian house nor in the Roman state did there exist another such example of personal merit and youthful courage. He told the people that Caeso had fought under his watch and had been the foremost soldier in his army. Spurius Furius, another former consul, also came forward and told the people that one time he was struggling to win a battle and Quintius Capitolinus sent Caeso to assist him, and the young man saved the day. Lucius Lucretius, who had served as consul the previous year, also defended the young man by enumerating his distinguished military performance. Caeso's own father, Lucius Quinctius Cincinnatus, did testify on his behalf, and his testimony portrays the kind of a person that Cincinnatus was, and indeed part of what has made his character so admired to modern times. Livy writes, Lucius Quinctius Cincinnatus did not go over all his merits again, for fear of aggravating the feelings against him, but he pleaded for indulgence to the errors of youth. He himself had never injured anyone either by word or deed, and for his own sake he implored them to pardon his son. Some refused to listen to his prayers lest they should incur the displeasure of their friends. Now, since the people had a lot of respect for Cincinnatus, and they were scared he could win them over, nevertheless, the tribunes had a wild card under the table. They called Marcus Volscius Victor, who had previously been tribune of the people, to give evidence about Caeso being guilty of a capital offense. Marcus Volscius Victor claimed that not long after the big plague, Caeso had had an argument with his recovering older brother, and Caeso had used his fist to knock down the still weak young man. The young man died a few days later. He alleged that the death of his brother was caused by the knockdown he received from Caeso. Asked why he had not brought this case forward earlier, he claimed that the consul had not allowed him to. This allegation enraged the people, and Livy states that they were almost lynching Caeso, but the lictors intervened and prevented it from happening. Aulus Verginius, the tribune of the people, ordered Caeso to be arrested and taken to prison. However, Titus Quintius made an argument that he was supposed to be treated as innocent until proven guilty of the charges in a procedural trial. Livy writes, Titus Quintius called out that when the day of trial has been fixed for someone indicted on a capital charge and is near at hand, his personal liberty ought not to be interfered with before the case is heard and sentence given. A middle ground was agreed upon after a lengthy consultation between the tribunes of the people, the consuls, and the Senate. It was agreed that Caeso was not going to be put in prison awaiting trial for murder, but he will provide a bail to stand in for him. In the event he didn't show up on the day of trial, the amount will be forfeited to the state. The amount was set at 10 sureties. Each surety was bound in 3,000 asses. Livy writes, the prosecutor released the accused on that bail. Caeso was the first who gave securities on a state trial. But Caeso escaped that night and went into exile among the Tuscans. Livy writes, when the day for the trial came, it was pleaded in defense of his non-appearance that he had changed his domicile by going into exile. Aulus Virginius nevertheless went on with the proceeding, but his colleagues to whom an appeal was made dismissed the assembly. The money was unmercifully extorted from the father, who had to sell all his property and live for some time like a banished man in an out-of-the-way hut on the other side of the Tiber. Caeso never returned back to Rome, but for a while he became a boogeyman used to scare the plebeians. Whenever the tribunes of the people needed to push an agenda, they often told the people that Caeso was in the city planning to murder them. Despite losing everything due to Caeso fleeing from Rome, Lucius Quinctius Cincinnatus did rise again to become a consul and a dictator. He left a legacy that has continued to be celebrated to modern times, including having a city named after him in the US. I will explore the legend of Lucius Quinctius Cincinnatus and his remarkable achievements in another video. If you enjoyed this video, take a moment to hit the like button. See you in the next video.